All right. Welcome to Drawing with Mr. Hutch, episode 2. In episode 1, we did some facial proportions, and I did two. I did a female and a male. And so we walked through the proportions of the human face and some of the things that make a human face look more feminine versus more masculine. That video is up on the YouTube channel right now. So that was our end product yesterday. Today now, we're going to talk about the human body in proportion. Okay, so for this lesson, I'm gonna turn my sketchbook horizontal. Okay, and today you're going to need a ruler or a straight edge, a pencil, an eraser, and you probably want a sharpener as well. Okay. So the first thing that we're going to do is I'm going to just draw a little rectangle here on my page to help us with our body proportions. Now, as the human body grows, proportions change. So we're going to do a progression of the human body at 5 different stages of growth. Okay, I'm gonna have to keep this on the camera here, so we'll just bring this line up a little bit. Okay. Now, in order to kind of do this, we're gonna just have to start by drawing one of the phases of the human proportion, and then we're going to base all of our shapes and sizes off of that. So I'm just going to turn the lights on, make it a little brighter in here. Refocus my camera. Okie doke. Here we go. So we're going to start with a baby or a toddler. That's the first phase of human proportion that we are going to start with. So what we're going to do is we're going to split 1, 2. Let's split this box into quarters. So first thing we're going to do is we're going to split this rectangle right in half. You don't have to be exact. Okay. And then each half and half, giving us 4 ropes. Okay. Yeah, they're not exact, but it'll work. So what we're going to start with, like I said, we're going to start with a toddler. Now, a toddler's head. I'm just going to actually adjust this slightly. I'm just going to move this up a little bit more. Nothing is exact. Everything is approximate. This is just planning lines to help us understand proportion. All right. Toddlers have giant heads compared to the rest of their bodies. So the toddler head is going to be roughly 1/4. It's going to fill up that first 1/4 of our rectangle, the first 4th row. Okay. Should be, I guess, more of an egg shape. Draw ears to kind of identify that it is a head. Okay. Now, then from the chin down to one, two, 1, 2. So we're now going to take the torso. Shoulders are going to come out just past the ears. Arms are going to go almost down to the third, 1, 2, third line. Torso your belly button is going to be about here for the toddler. These are kind of our landmarks. Okay, here's a little hand. All right, now hands almost right where the knees are. There's our knees. Calves. Feet. So I'm just going to adjust my line here. I don't know, didn't quite make it long enough here. So let's just adjust these lines slightly. That's why we do the one body proportion first, because then we can kind of adjust our planning lines to fit the proportions of the other bodies. Okay. Okay, that feels pretty good. This line should be a little bit closer to the knees. Okay. Looks pretty good. Belly button maybe a little bit higher. Okay. I'm going to up this line just a bit. We want that right at the chin. And then we're going to bump this up just slightly, a little bit. All right, I think we're good now with our proportions. So I'm going to just bump this up. Here's our head. Head is almost as wide as our shoulders as a toddler. Shoulders here. There we go. Now we've got our landmarks where we want them. Okay, there is our toddler. So our toddler helped us to identify where our proportional lines went. All right. So now we can kind of finish off our human body proportion progression. Okay, so if we're a toddler, that's the proportions. Our head is basically a quarter of our height. Torso is another quarter. From our belly buttons to our knees is another quarter, and knees to toes is about another quarter, roughly. So there's a proportion of a toddler. Okay. Next, we're going to move on to a early years student, let's say, around grade 3, grade 4. All right. So let's draw back in our ears because they're going to help us to identify some proportions next. All right, so what I want you to think about now is if you were to draw a line just directly over, right along the bottom of the ears of the toddler, that is going to be where the chin of our next progression of human proportions would be. Okay, so we're thinking about a toddler, grade 3, grade 4. Sorry, we did a toddler, now we're an early years kid, grade 3, grade 4. As we grow older, our neck tends to show up a little bit more, and our shoulders, shoulder width starts to open up a little bit. Okay. Not as we look at the toddler, we draw a line down from the ears. Those shoulders are pretty close to right where the ears are. But then as you see, as we grow older, shoulders start to get wider. All right, try to keep this in the frame. So now we're going to move down to our next our next section of the torso for the next child. So torso are looking again, we're going to look for our belly button, and our belly button is going to be roughly in the same position as it was for the toddler. Maybe a touch higher, okay? So that's going to denote our torso. Okay. Coming from there, then we have some hips. And thighs. Our knees end up being right here. Knees, calves, and feet. Just do like a little sock feet for now. What we're creating basically is a template for us to use as we move forward in our drawing. Hands, arms coming down here, hands are going to be roughly the same position as our toddler. Not too much shorter. They're kind of a stiff position, but right now we're just looking for proportions. All right. This can be very sketchy. What I often will use for these is if I'm drawing characters, I would just then put tracing paper over top of these, get my quick proportions set up, and then I will go into the details. So this will say grade 3, 4 for this gentleman. So you'll move this back up a little bit, fit it in there. All right. Next, we're moving into a teenager, or let's say a middle year student, 11, 12. Okay. Now we'll start to see this progression. Chin is going kind of on a upward angle here. So if we were thinking about the chin from the toddler, so if this toddler's mouth is here, that's where the chin is for the 3 to 4, grade 3 to 4. So we're looking at the mouth of this toddler and we're going straight over. That's the chin of our, I'm going to move that over a little bit, our middle schooler. So here, chin, head, okay, neck is starting to be a little bit stronger. Broader shoulders. Okay. Our belly button, again, we're still right on this line. We've got hands moving, arms are getting long, hands, roughly the same spot. As we move the head up, arms tend to get longer because the shoulders are starting a little bit higher. Okay. Knees now are just above this line. Extend our calves a little bit. Okay. So you see this progression of the chin. Okay, so there's our chin. On our shoulders. Okay. You can see those lines. You don't need to draw those lines in. I just kind of identify how we're kind of stretching out the proportions of the human as we go. It's a little wonky here. I'm just going to move his head over a little bit so it's more centered. Right, so now this is middle years. So we'll say grade 6, 6, 7, 6, 7, 8. All right. Okie doke. Now, moving along. Using the mouth again. Our head. So now we're into a teenager. Okay. Dropped some ears in here. I forgot to add the ears for some of these guys. Let's draw that again. I need to sharpen my pencil. It's getting a little muddy. All right. Okay, so we're coming across where this mouth is, just like we had been. Mouth to chin, mouth to chin. Here's our chin. Okay. It looks like the character is getting smaller, but what's actually happening is we're just stretching them out on the same proportional grid so that we can compare. Does a toddler have a bigger head than a teenager? No, but in terms of proportions, this is what it would look like as we compare them, right? Shoulders, because we're getting taller as we get older. So here's our chin. All right, and if we're thinking about belly button, come across here, and it's almost going to be halfway between this line and this line where the belly button is now. Okay. Hands, arms are getting longer, so our hands still are almost all the way down to where we were. Okay, I'm just drawing mitten hands for now. That's what we're focusing on is proportions, not human anatomy in terms of detail. Just trying to get our proportions correct. Torso. And then we're looking at our legs, starting a bit higher. Okay. Our thighs have stretched out. Okay. Knees, surprisingly, your knees are almost always in the same spot. Calves and feet. Okay, now we've got our teen. And last but not least, an adult. So again, here's our mouth. We're gonna go straight over, and that's gonna be our chin. So we got pretty small head now. A very much more pronounced neck than we had. Broader shoulders. Hands, belly button, legs. Okay. Knees still make it all the way down. Calves, ankles, and feet. Okay, and this is adult. So here we are with our human proportion graduation from a toddler to an adult. This is something that I like to, I like to tell my students to keep this, something like this in their sketchbook. It's really helpful whenever you're doing character design. Decide what kind of age of character that you want. And you can use this as a template to trace on. Just gonna darken up our toddler. He looks a little bit malformed. Okay, so something like this, it's not meant to have full details by any means. It's meant to be a quick kind of a sketchy template that you can use to develop characters. These lines, again, like I was just showing, these kind of show the progression from toddler to an adult in terms of chin. We use the mouths from each character or each aged human proportion before to kind of determine where the chin was going to be. Okay. I'm just going to clean up some of these lines, make it a little bit easier to see. And this is all on basically a 4-row rectangle, or kind of our landmarks to determine where things are. So we used mouths, we used chins, we used belly buttons. Knees are pretty close all the way along. So that is our progression of human proportions from toddler to adult. And that is episode number 2 with Drawing with Mr. Hutch. Hope you enjoy and tune back in tomorrow. I just broke my sharpener and now I have to clean that up. So thanks for watching. Talk to you soon.